Shabby.
Why is Sumail so good? We're going to pick apart his most recent game and find out why he is the king of Dota. And why does he make us 3K scrubs look so terrible? So in the last 8 days, Sumail has played 27 matches and his win rate is 77.8%. Now, I know what you're thinking.
That's pretty good.
Yes, you're right. That is pretty good. So I've decided to look at one game in particular, his most recent game on Weaver. Sumail went 12, 2 and 9 and ended the game with 20,339 net worth. He also managed to deal 23,235 damage to enemy heroes and 19,205 damage to enemy buildings. And I can pretty much guess what you're thinking at this point.
Now that's a lot of damage!
And you're right, that is a lot of damage. And how did he manage to cause that much damage to enemy heroes and buildings whilst maintaining being top of the net worth for pretty much 95% of the game? Well, let's have a look. First thing to note is this game's broken. You can see Weaver's immortal set stretching about 16 meters towards Timbersaw in a pretty retarded fashion. But the first thing to call out is Sumail's excellent map awareness from not even 20 seconds into the game. And he's already set up on top of the cliff, give vision to a common place where the Dire team normally smokes to, and skills Sakuchi first so that he can make a quick escape, being invisible and all that. And you can see here in high level Dota, the sentry ward sometimes gets placed in the vision of the tower so it can stop the creep wave and push Sumail's wave under the tower, which makes the last hits for the safe lane carry much harder to get. That didn't actually happen in this situation. This one actually got dewarded as the Dire team decided to block the small camp, but Sumail was already there in preparation for this ward. Now moving on to the very early laning stages, Sumail's priority here is to get as many last hits as possible, and you can see he even gets some under the tower, under the tower, under the tower. This is a really undervalued skill in Dota, and it actually requires a lot of practice. You have to know how much damage the tower's going to do, how much damage your hero does. Sometimes you have to get an additional hit off before the tower hits the creep in order for you to confirm the last hit, and also his skills in holding the wave before it gets to the tower, where it's going to be easiest for him to last hit. By the 4-minute mark, Sumail has 23 last hits and 7 denies, which is pretty exceptional and something you'd probably expect from a top 5 carry player in the world. And just to call out at this point, Sumail knows on a hero like Weaver, he doesn't need boots, he needs damage, HP and mana regen. So he's gone for the Wand, single Wraith Band, Falcon Blade for mana regen, health and a bit of damage, and he's gone for the Fairy Fire. So you can tell he's put a lot of thought into his first few items, and by the 6.5 minute mark you'll see in this next clip where his mind is in the current game. So he knows he's Weaver and he does some clever juking here to avoid one tower shot with his invisibility. But he knows how important the wisdom runes are now and actually sacrifices his life in order to try and secure the wisdom rune. Unfortunately he doesn't get it this time, but it just goes to show you where Sumail's head is. He wants to secure the wisdom rune for himself and his supports, get that early 6, but that does not deter him at all and shows his absolute winning mentality as he teleports back to the lane, hunts down the Tidehunter and actually gets the kill on Tidehunter. Weaver's really one of them heroes who, if you're a specialist, you're going to know exactly where you can push and where you can't push and how much life you can get away with taking before you have to Sakuchi or time lapse away. So by close to the 10-minute mark, Sumail has currently got 4.4k net worth and is top of the leaderboard in both last hits and net worth. And this just goes to show how good Sumail is and how important it is as a carry hero and as a top Dota player to secure your last hits, make sure you're farming all the time, even if you go for those high risk, high reward plays like trying to get the wisdom rune. And by minute 10, he's got such good map awareness, he can see his team are taking out the puck, they've used Doom, they're rotating on enemy heroes, and he doesn't want to just sit in the jungle and farm away. He wants to get objectives. He wants to push his mid tower. He knows there's no one defending the tower, so he rotates into the mid lane, casts his swarm on the wave so he can kill it quickly, and ends up securing the last hit on the tower, which gives him a gold boost and his whole team a gold boost. So Sumail's not thinking greedy jungle, he's thinking what objectives can I secure for my team at this point in the game based on what's happening around the map. As you watch him play, he's constantly checking what his team are doing, constantly checking how the waves are being pushed in, and constantly saying to himself, can I join this team fight? Can I engage the enemy? Do I need to help my team here? Where is my time best spent to help my team as much as possible? And that is why some people call him the king of Dota. And you can see here he rotates to the top lane. We're going to watch this fight all the way through because it's super important to watch his movement, who he decides to hit, where he decides to go, who he decides to Sakuchi on, and what skills he uses and where he uses them. So right now he focuses on the Lion. He wants to get down to support because he knows the lockdown from Lion is going to disable him and his team and maybe lose him the team fight. He gets silenced here, waits to the very last second, time lapse back, and get as much health back as possible. You can see here he's constantly looking around at different heroes he can hit. Where can he Sakuchi? How can he get away safely? How can he maximize his damage output as much as possible by Sakuchiing across to as many heroes as possible? And eventually he gets the double kill on Treant and Tidehunter, and he wants to go for more. He's got a lot of health, he knows his hero limits, and I want to call your attention to this very easy to miss juke. He goes inside of tower vision for a split second in order to get Sakuchi off on the puck, and in the 0.5 split second he sees a wind runner shackle shot come through the trees out of vision and makes the tiniest adjustment movement backwards, which takes him out of vision and means that the shackle shot does not land. In this instance it wouldn't have killed him, but it is those tiny little things that can sometimes be the difference between a professional player and a non-professional player. But it does goes to show the level of skill Sumail is at in terms of his movement and juke ability. And from here he decides, because he's in the top lane, and looks for his nearest opportunity to farm, and right now he's at 7.8k, which is almost 1,000 higher than the next hero puck. From here he moves into the mid lane, clears out the creep waves because he can see the waves are pushing to his tower, and he wants to hold that tier 1 tower as long as possible if he can. And from the mid lane he can see his teams moving to engage the enemy team in top. This meta is all about fighting early, so he wants to fight as much as possible and help his team secure these skills, and his movement here is excellent. He sees the tide coming in, and he knows from his experience in Dota the exact measurement and how to dodge Ravage, and also the puck silence here. He knew that the puck silence was coming out. He knew to move his hero back very slightly just to avoid the silence, and if you haven't got keen eyes you would have missed that. From here the team fight kind of moves into the mid lane, and he doesn't go back to farming in the jungle. He does get double shackle trotted here, but he decides to stay with his team and fight because he knows he's the most farmed hero in the game right now, and his damage output is insane. Unfortunately his team gets killed here, and the Lion cleverly has dust, and he knows he can't do anything else here. He's too low to do anything. Lion has a shed load of disables for him, and he decides to back away. And a good little trick that you might not have picked up on is his usage of Royal Jelly. So the new Royal Jelly stacks over time up to a maximum of 10 stacks, and if you use it at 10 stacks you get a shed load of health regen. So he hasn't used it, he's waiting for the right time when he's really low on health and he can get away safely, and then he pops it and gets most of his regen back, which again is something that low MMR players will sometimes forget to use, but Sumail's optimized gameplay means he's used it at the perfect time. And surprisingly in this clip this completely caught me off guard. I don't know how on earth the Treant Protector got to that position, but as he was escaping the Treant Protector comes round the back of the tier 2 tower, manages to get the overgrowth off, but because Sumail has been so good at keeping his time lapse, which is a 60-second ability at this stage, he's not used it sparingly. He manages to time lapse out of the Treant ult, and even though they've used another dust, it's moved him far enough away that he can actually escape. So this sequence is super clutch and could have been game losing. If he had died here, it could have led to the enemy team snowballing and possibly winning the game off of this. But fortunately, Sumail's too high skill for this nonsense, and his team backs him up, and eventually they get the team wipe. A couple of things, the team did overextend, yes, but they really wanted to get the kill on Weaver because he's got such high net worth. There would have been a shed load of gold and probably would have ruined Sumail's game. But because of his good movement and juking skills and his good use of Royal Jelly, he managed to survive and decides after the win in the team fight to move to the Ancient Camp, which has got a double stack, and the Large Camp, which has got a double stack also. And notice his farming pattern here is always as optimal as possible. He goes for whatever camp is next to him to keep his farm rate as high as possible, and he pulls the Ancient Creep just slightly backwards so that he can get the stack, which is something that you have to learn at a high skill level. You always have to make sure you pull that Ancient Creep back so that it can stack and you can get more farm. And from here it's easy access to the top lane, where with his good map awareness he's noticed that the enemy team are most likely taking Roche, which they actually do, but he decides to stick around, see what happens with the fight, because he knows he's got Desolator now and he wants to get some charges on Desolator so he can increase his damage output even more. Treant gets a root on him, but he stays around hunting the supports and manages to get the kill on Lion. It's also good to note here that he has gone Shard straight after Desolator. So Shard on Weaver, any hero that you've Sakuchi'd on gets hit no matter what distance they are from you. So if you Sakuchi on a whole wave, as soon as that Sakuchi breaks, you right click every single one of those heroes, and he knows how powerful this is. At the current point in the game, with him being the most farmed hero in the game, he knows he can pretty much kill any support, and with his Aghanim Shard, that's a massive amount of damage, and he can get max stacks of Deso charges as soon as possible. And you can see his perfect hero placement here, where he just manages to get a kill onto Lion, moves up to the top lane under the tower, and goes for the kill on Tide. And he notices his team are engaging the enemy on the high ground, and he makes his way round the back. Ravage is used, so he doesn't have to worry about Ravage, gets the double hit on Lion, doesn't even bother finishing Lion. He's not a greedy player, so he's not even going to go for the last hit. He knows his team can finish him off. What he wants to do is go for the high priority targets. Goes for the time lapse so that he has no chance of being killed. Of course, he doesn't have Aegis or anything, so he wants to play a little bit safe. And he knows his team are super strong right now. Even though the kill lead isn't that high, their team is almost 16k ahead. And his damage output on structures and towers is so high with Desolator, because he wants to end the game now. He does not want to go late game against their lineup. And that's why he's built the BKB so early, straight after Desolator Dragonlance, and he's even gone back for the power treads, and you can see his usage of BKB in this instance is absolutely perfect. The Windrunner goes for the shackle shot, which would have landed on that tree and disabled him for about, I think it's 3.5 seconds. The instant that shackle shot came through and landed, Sumail decided to pop BKB at the literal perfect time, and the shackle shot didn't land, and it even went through the Puck's ulti. That BKB could not have been more perfect, and it was the first usage of his BKB. But this is the difference between these pro players. They use BKB so perfectly most of the time that they can push their advantage to a point where the enemy team can't handle him. And right now he's at 18k net worth, almost 5,000 gold above the enemy team's highest net worth hero, Windrunner, which is absolutely insane. And Sumail knows he is so far ahead that he needs to push his lead and finish the game ASAP. From here his team pushed a high ground with him leading the front, and they pushed down the next tower and the next set of racks. He doesn't want to do any fountain diving, he doesn't want to farm kills, he wants to hit those towers, get them down as soon as possible so he can get that 25 MMR and get this game out with. Just goes to show you his full focus on objective gaming. Like and subscribe if you like this video and I'll make some more. That's it. Go away now.